From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Wednesday, September the 11th, 2024. An Israeli soldier was killed in a terror attack today in the West Bank. 24-year-old Staff Sergeant Gary Gidon Hangal sustained critical injuries when a fuel tanker with Palestinian license plates veered off a busy highway and rammed into an IDF guard post next to a bus stop. He later died of his injuries. The IDF said that other Israeli troops and an armed citizen neutralized the terrorist at the scene. And 2 IDF soldiers were killed in a helicopter crash in Gaza overnight last night. The IDF said the helicopter, which was on a mission to evacuate an injured soldier to a hospital for medical treatment, crashed while landing in the Rafah area. An initial inquiry conducted indicates that the crash was not caused by enemy fire, but rather was an accident. The soldiers were later named as 37-year-old Sergeant Major in Reserve Daniel Alush and 38-year-old Sergeant Major in Reserve Tom Ish Shalom, both part of the Israeli Air Force's elite search and rescue unit. 7 other soldiers who were on board the helicopter were seriously injured. And an IDF reservist was seriously injured today in an anti-tank missile attack from terror group Hezbollah in Lebanon on Kibbutz Dan in northern Israel. The north continues to be under heavy rocket barrages, with over 30 rockets launched by Hezbollah today and another 30 launched, claimed by Hamas's Lebanon branch. No injuries were reported. The IDF continues to respond to the attacks, hitting Hezbollah terrorists and terror targets in Lebanon. And the IDF continues to battle Hamas in Gaza, and today shared that 2 terrorists who took part in the October 7th massacre were eliminated in intelligence-based Israeli Air Force strikes. One of the terrorists was responsible, it said, for holding Corporal Noah Marciano captive. Marciano was abducted during the October 7th massacre and was killed in the Shifa hospital in Gaza City. Israel's President Isaac Herzog is on an official visit to Serbia and then to Albania this week, his office said, to strengthen security, strategic, and diplomatic cooperation. Herzog is accompanied on the trip by the mother of Alon Ohel, who is among the hostages still being held captive in Gaza by Hamas, now for 341 days. Herzog was greeted at the airport in Belgrade by Foreign Minister Marko Đurić, who is Alon's cousin. And Herzog met with the President of Serbia, Aleksandar Vučić, thanking him, Herzog wrote, for the wonderful show of friendship. To see the streets of Belgrade adorned with Israeli flags, he said, "You are a true friend of Israel." Herzog said, "I stand here with Idit Ohel, an Israeli whose family came from Serbia and whose son Alon remains captive in the hands of Hamas terrorists, with a further 100 hostages brutally held in Gaza. We want to see Alon and all the hostages home, and I appreciate all you are doing to help in this supreme human and moral duty, which he said must remain at the top of the world's agenda." Well, today, of course, we mark the 23rd anniversary of the devastating September 11th terror attacks committed against the United States of America, and remember and pay tribute to the nearly 3,000 Americans who were murdered on that dark day. Jewish organizations shared their tributes and memorials, as did the IDF and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who wrote, "On the anniversary of 9/11, we stand with the American people in our common battle against the forces of terror. We remember our slain brothers and sisters, and we recommit ourselves to the victory of civilization in our ongoing struggle against barbarism." And Israel's official X Twitter platform wrote, "We honor the victims, their families, and the first responders who risked and lost their lives saving others. We will never forget them. May the memory of the victims be a blessing. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Wednesday, September the 11th, which includes special programming in remembrance for 9/11. But first at 7 o'clock, David Harris speaks in depth about his new book, On the Front Lines, a lifetime of global Jewish advocacy that chronicles his nearly 50-year career spent confronting the toughest challenges facing the Jewish people, Israel, and liberal democracies. At 7:30, Rabbi Yaffa Epstein and Rabbi Shai held grapple with the Jewish notion of loving your enemy in this class from the Temple Emanu-El Streicker Center, moderated by Abigail Pogrebin. At 9 o'clock on L'chaim, it's Kenneth Feinberg, the man who determined compensation for 9/11 families. At 10 on Faith to Faith, Deborah Burlingame, sister of Charles Burlingame, the pilot of American Airlines Flight 77, discusses the tragedy with Rabbi Joseph Potasnik. At 10:30, it's an encore of the news, and coming up next, it's Thinking Out Loud. And that's the JBS News Update for Wednesday, September the 11th, 2024. I'm Teisha Bader. Am Yisrael Chai.